When we look back through the years, one of the most interesting things about marketing teams is that we have this interesting spectrum. We've got innovators and doers, people who can create stuff, right through to others who are creatively expressive, come up with all sorts of radical ideas. The question is, do you need to choose one or the other? Hello, Mark Jones here, and thanks for joining us again on this episode of the CMO Show. The CMO Show is brought to you by Impact Institute in partnership with our friends at Adobe. Bit of a special one today too, because we are filming live on site at the Adobe AI Forum in Sydney. And the reason is we have an opportunity to meet Nick Law. He is the Chief Creative Chairperson at Accenture Song. He's based in New York and is an Aussie by birth and back here in Australia for a little while. So we had the chance to have a chat with him about all things AI creativity and how he sees the marketing world from a team's, a corporation, and also from an agency perspective. How is all of the systems and processes that we use to drive our business, but also be creative, being shaped and transformed by AI? Of course, fascinating conversation. This is somebody who can think really big picture, apply it to specific examples, and tell a great story at the same time. Let's get stuck into it. Nick Law, thanks for joining us.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Great to speak to an Aussie from the Big Apple, visiting back in Australia. Quick career summary: RGA, Apple, Publicis, now Accenture Song. Did I get that right?
Yep, that's right. That's recent. Yeah,
it is recent. Interesting thing, if I think about your career and imagining the tech shifts you've been through, AI quite clearly is different for many reasons, but I'm interested in your perspective. Why is the season we live in, the time that we live in, so different to be a creative?
Well, when I think about the revolutions that have affected our business marketing, I think there's been three big ones. The first one is the Industrial Revolution, because you could make everything. And as soon as you could make everything, you had to figure out how to distribute it and sell it.
Yeah.
And so advertising actually came out of the Industrial Revolution. That's where. And then the Internet Revolution connected everything. So you had to start thinking about the experience, that the interface in front of that sort of that connection machine, which was the Internet, and how that affected everything, right? And what AI does is it's a computing technology that actually combines everything and can operate in sort of independently, cognitively to a human. And so it brings up a whole bunch of different questions. In each case, it affected our business, these revolutions. This last one, I think, affects it probably the deepest because it's a sort of essential and general technology, which is going to be not just expressed in the things that we make and how people interact, but how businesses are run. Where is the value in business? You know, where is the value in human effort? Like, where's that going to sort of land? So to me, it's the biggest paradigm shift for our industry, but because it's the biggest paradigm shift, I think, for culture and humanity.
We're here, for context, at the Adobe AI Forum, and you've presented on those ideas, and you sort of showed how all of those things that you spoke about are coming together. What's the implication for you guys at Accenture Song, and for those who don't know what the organisation is, what is it?
So Accenture Song, I like to say Accenture Song's an interesting bit of Accenture. I'm joking. No, we are the customer-facing part of Accenture. And because we're the customer-facing part of Accenture, we have to create interesting and useful things for people, so that's where the creatives live. So all the agency sort of people, the designers, people in customer service and sales and commerce, all the surfaces that the end customer interacts with, you reverse engineer back into what we do.
And your role?
I am...
How would you describe it?
I've had a few titles.
Yeah.
Creative Chairperson, I would say, is probably the best, most complete title. But it's, so I look over all of those creative tribes.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Like a tribal master, tribal warrior leader.
I'm like that. I'm like a witch doctor.
The point is, though, when you think about how this world is changing, it's changing your clients, but it's also changing the way that you work.
Yeah.
And you've also, been quite open about how it's changing media, agencies, and software.
Yeah.
So you're kind of straddling the fence in an interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, my background is in design and in marketing, and from a design point of view, I've been involved in creating digital products. So there's that piece, and then I worked at Apple, which is a digital product company or a hardware company also. So I've been on both sides of that, and then there's a marketing piece. And early on at RGA, which was a company that when I joined was 100 people, and when I left 17 years later was like 2,000 people. So a lot of the sort of rethinking how to put a company together, what skill sets you need in the middle of a tech change, which was the internet, was experienced and it was there that I started to think about not accepting the received wisdom of what a creative team looked like. So in the advertising world, the big innovation in the creative team happened in the late 50s when Bernbach said, you know what, this copywriter might need an art director. Let's get them together and see what we could create with this tension between image and copy. And that started the creative revolution, really.
And that's a model that's stuck till now.
And that was my point, right?
Yeah.
And so when I was at RGA building these teams, there were two models. There was that model, which was a legacy model from the 50s, and works really well for mass media, but the internet threw up new problems. And then there was this sort of emerging web design shop, of which RGA was in the early 2000s. And the teams were structured around design, technology, with the two sort of components, and then you could add things like copy and stuff. But basically, it was this sort of design and technology. And when the pipe of the internet got big enough that the internet wasn't just a utility but became a great storytelling medium, then you started to look over what the advertising people were doing and said, some of those people might actually be able to work here. And how would you combine a team with interaction designers, with great copywriters, and then you have this whole sort of Cambrian explosion of different creative disciplines. People that are really good at data visualization, people that are really good at, at social commerce. Like there are all these different sort of things, and so you needed an organizing principle on top of that so that you could curate the teams to map against the medium and the problem. And so that's when I came up with this sort of idea of stories and systems. So every team of up to 150 at RGA had leadership from a creative point of view of a designer and a storyteller, right? So it's systems and stories. And between them, they had a breadth of literacy that could then mean that they could curate the right team underneath against a problem, right? So that was the sort of the beginning of this thinking of if you've got this new medium, you need to map talent against that technology to be most effective, and you need to think about human capabilities almost more than the technology capabilities. The point I was making in the presentation today was that this whole world of AI is being led by people that have very deep knowledge about the technology. What they have less of a knowledge about, I think, is the thing that they think is really important, which is creativity. They all say creativity is important, but creativity is this suitcase word. Like if you're in Hollywood, creativity means something different to if you're in the South Bay of San Francisco, or if you're in advertising, or if you're in industrial design, or if you're... These are all versions of creativity, and they're all different ways to be creative. And so understanding the technology is one thing. Understanding how to find, curate, combine different human talents on top of that technology, I think is something that we're only just starting to think about.
You also had this interesting sliding scale between ambition and taste.
It was basically this journey from idea to execution. In the middle of that is the how, right? Which is how are you going to make this thing. So for a lot of my career, the how was learning how to use software programs, and you had this sort of you had to have this dexterity around the tools that you'd translate that idea into something, right? Now, my point that I was making there was that how has now been collapsed, so that the distance between an idea and the realization of that idea is in many cases seconds or minutes. And so where's the value? If how is not valuable anymore, the value goes to the why, right, which is why you're doing this in the first place.
Yes.
And the what, which is what's the end product, right? And you should be guiding that why with ambition, because only humans have ambition. And you should be regarding the thing that you deliver to the customer with taste, because you know, you need to have a theory of mind about how the customer is going to react to that thing.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like this amazing technology has to be bookended by these two human qualities, ambition and taste.
I liked your contrast between Sam Altman on the sort of, you know, the more analytical, systematic side, through to Rick Rubin, you know, the incredible producer, on that taste thing. The interesting thing in marketing, though, is that particularly for a lot of large organisations, it's very systems driven, and
That's a really good point.
Taste is subjective, at least in most people's kind of understanding. So how do you build in taste that scales?
Well, if I pull on the string of what you're saying, right, which is becoming systematic, I think that sets up, the challenge here, right? So the point I was making with the ends of this continuum of creativity, right?
Yep.
So I'm talking about creativity here.
Yep.
At one end of the spectrum, you've got inventive creativity.
Yes.
Which is how do I make things work? That's Sam Altman. So he's creative.
Yep.
They're innovative, inventive people.
Correct.
On the other end of the spectrum, you've got this more sort of empathetic theory of mind creative, which is expressive, right?
Yes.
So from inventive to expressive, they're both important. At the end of those continuum, it becomes a zero-sum game. So the point I was making with Rick Rubin is he's got this amazing theory of mind and great taste, so he knows what people are going to like.
Yeah.
But he, by his own admission, has no technical skill. Right. On the other end of the spectrum, Sam Altman has amazing technical skill. He has that systematic ability to hold a lot of things in his mind at the same time and understand the shape of a problem and how to make things work. But he probably doesn't have the same sort of theory of mind as a Rick Rubin. Like which is a sort of taste thing.
Yeah.
Now, so why is that important? Well, systematic thinking, whether it's inventive or executional, right, is really important in big businesses, because big businesses are systems, right?
Yeah.
And so what tends to happen is that a lot of these small creative companies are started by creative people, but when they become big, right, or they get absorbed by a holding company, the leadership quickly transitions into someone who's more operational. Because God forbid you should trust a scale company to someone that doesn't think systematically, right? So this is what happens in a lot of big
This is the great dilemma.
It's a dilemma, but it's a dilemma that I think the creative community and advertising has let happen. They've let themselves become infantilized, and then there's been some exceptions. Dan White and David Droga. There are exceptions of people, mostly from independents, but. And I think that the thing is that you need both of those sensibilities. You need to be systematic, and you need to be a great, expressive, empathetic. A vision lives at the intersection of those two things. So the thing is not to, we need to make sure that only expressive people are leaders or only systematic people are leaders. It's to recognize you need both things. And so this is why at RGA I had two head leadership teams, because I wanted to balance it.
Yeah.
In the absence of making every structure have two people run it,
Yes.
you at least need to balance it. So at least recognize if you're a systematic leader, a CEO who's really good at seeing everything all at once, but not very good at understanding how to put a narrative together, or how to, at least have, elevate people to do that. Like Steve Jobs had Tim Cook and Johnny Ive. Yeah. Johnny Ive was an empath. Tim Cook was a systematic genius, right?
Yeah.
And so you had the artist and the soldier and working together. So don't make the false choice, right? You don't want to make the false choice the other way either. I think Hollywood has suffered from having not enough systematic thinkers, and so they're not trying to catch up with these technology changes. And what's interesting about these two sensibilities, inventive and expressive, is that great business ideas are asymmetrical. They can start in either end, right? So the iPhone started with a bunch of inventions, multi-touch, all these things so all these
jamming
inventions,
lots of existing tech together.
Yeah, exactly. And then they put an expressive layer on top, which is an interface, and and an object which Johnny Ive and his team put together.
I'm holding on. It was also a creative idea in the sense of getting away from, thumb typing.
Yeah, but my point is it started with a bunch of technology. So the invention preceded the expression. The expression was put on top of it. But you can do it the other way around. So Walt Disney changed cinema in I think it was in the 30s when he came up with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because he had this vision for doing an animated feature-length film that had never been done before, that was naturalistic and everything. But they didn't have the technology for it. So he started with the expression and then back and worked on the invention. So my point is that you need both.
Yep.
You can come from either way. And we need to, but it can only come from either way if there's a conversation between these two sensibilities. And right now, that's very rare.
Yes.
The conditions for that, the culture for that, is very rare in scaled companies. Less so in startups, but in big scale companies.
Particularly if you think about the CMO, the marketing teams, if we just in that context, I'm wondering how this is going to change the way they work. And the other new role that we're starting to see a lot more of is the chief AI officer or chief strategy, risk, compliance, ethics person, right? There's somebody who's holding that torch. And I'm wondering whether there's going to be some kind of interesting synergy there.
Well, I think we've got to get the CMO role right first. I think what's happened, and it started with this mania for performance marketing, is that the CMOs have gone from being people that had an expressive vision, understanding a brand, to people that are more, more mathematical, more, Now the thing is, again, it's a false choice. You need both, right? One way to think, the way I think about it is that a lot of modern marketing organizations look like an hourglass, right? Which is at the top, you've got brand marketers, at the bottom you've got performance marketers, and there's nothing in the middle, right? The two cultures have been like oil and water, where the people at the top are making beautiful things that no one sees, and the people at the bottom are making really ugly things that everyone sees. and in the middle is where the consumer is making decisions on third-party platforms like YouTube or Reddit and everything. And the middle is about clarifying value, not making people feel something, not making them act. Doing both of those things by starting with clarifying value, right? So I think that the age of ads that are these metaphors that are meant to make you feel something without helping you understand the value, or a banner which chases around the internet in the hope that you might accidentally click on it. I think that the days of that sort of thing is over. So I think that marketing organizations should actually look like an onion. They should start with, how do you clarify the value here? And then how do you inflect that into making people feel something? Because people are going to feel something if they know that this thing is going to make their life better.
Correct.
And then inflect it down into more sort of transactional world, but in the same place, not trying to hook them, with a blinking button, but just a few simple statements on why they should give a toss. I know it sounds obvious, but somehow, because of the so we're in this situation where I don't think we've even solved the marketing organization of the internet era, because of this war between these two ways of thinking.
Do you think that's because we've got too carried away with MarTech?
Well, I think
I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just that
it goes back to like your job as a CMO is to do two things. It's to make your company interesting to other people, and to do that efficiently and delivered in the mediums that people belong in. We're forgetting about being interesting.
Yeah.
Like if you can't be a CMO who can make something interesting, how can you be a CMO? You might be able to lay down the pipes, but what you put in the pipes better be worth receiving. Now, but I'm not excusing the. You need to be very literate in this technology. You need to understand it, but you also need to. It's not enough to lay the pipes. Laying the pipes is you're just pumping more sewage out into people's feeds. Lay the pipes and then do something amazing.
Well, this gets back to storytelling, right? And
exactly.
Creativity. And how do we?
Great storytellers have a theory of mind.
Right.
Great technologists know how to make things work. They're different skills. They're really useful. We need to make things work, but we need to make people care about the things that work. And somehow we've forgotten that.
I think we've got a pretty good emerging mind here on the marketing team then. Just very briefly then, the AI people, where do they fit into all of this?
Well, the AI people are like anyone. It's like the broadcast people or the printing people. They're, AI is in everything.
Yep.
As a creative person, I'm going to be using AI. As a technologist, I'll be helping to shape that AI.
Yeah.
As a designer, I'll be hopefully creating affordances that people can, so they can use the AI better. So we're all going to be attached to AI.
Yeah.
It's like, at the early internet, I used to have this joke with Bob Greenberg, who, was the CEO of RGA. Every April 1st would come around and I'd say, you know what? We should announce that we're going to hire a chief analog officer. Because all of the agencies had these chief digital officers. And if you ask, what's your skill set as a chief digital officer? It could have been anyone. It's just that they were the person that presented the last slide of their presentations to try to convince clients that they understand digital. It's like, there's no such thing as a chief digital officer. There's technologists that build, and then there's interaction designers that create interfaces, and there's systematic visual designers. There's all sorts of things that go to making a digital experience. So I just think, what are the AI people are going to be everyone.
If I think about the viewer, the listener, and if they're starting early in their career, mid-career, or been around for a while, what's your advice for career marketers?
If I was a young creative now, I would be making, stuff every day. Like, these video models are incredible now.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. And I actually think the future of agencies is going to be a long tail of distributed creators that have learned how to use these tools by themselves. I don't think we're going to have this sort of guild of creatives that went to Miami Art School or ad school or university. They're not going to come through formal channels as much. They're going to be more distributed. Like, if you could argue that the most creative company in the world right now, or one of the most creative companies in the world, doesn't have a lot of creative people in their business, and that's Meta, right? So Meta, the reason that all of us interact with Instagram or these apps is because of the content. Who creates content?
We do.
Exactly.
We're all volunteers, by the way.
They've all outsourced.
Yes.
Meta has outsourced the creativity to the world, and because of that, the creativity is amazing. Because just like in TikTok,
Same.
there is, underneath that iceberg of amazing stuff that you're seeing, is hundreds of stuff thousands and millions and billions of pieces of content that you're never going to see because the algorithm's not going to do it. I just can't see a future of any creative business that doesn't leverage the sort of native brilliance of people all over the world. If everyone has access to these tools, what are the chances that the handful of people that I choose to go into an agency are going to be the best in the world?
The interesting thing will be to see how we then start to value that creativity at scale, right? Whether if it remains sort of in these big holding companies, if it remains in these big marketing teams, whether it starts to become more distributed across the organisation.
I think there's two parts. I think the talent is more distributed, but I think there are going to be plenty of examples when there's going to have to be an organisation that combines these different talents in different ways, because it goes back to innovation and interesting stylistic sort of advances happen when two ideas that exist come together and create a third idea.
Yep.
And so they're almost always a result of amazing collaboration, right? Yeah, so it's the art and copy. Or Jobs used to talk about humanities and science.
Yep.
That's what Apple was built on that, right?
Yep.
So almost anything interesting is birthed between some sort of conversation between different ways of thinking. And so I don't think it'll be all these creative point solutions that you aggregate. I think in many cases you're going to be curating a whole bunch of people. You'll have a platform. So an agency should have a platform that will help connect different and brilliant people that are not like all creators. They're not like, they may not even be their own brands, and it might just be amazing practitioners that have spent enough time on these tools in their dorm room or in the basement of their house, just becoming brilliant.
Yeah.
I just think I can't see that you wouldn't leverage the world's talent if you could. One
of the distinctions that stands out for me, wrapping up here, is the idea that it's the ambitious versus the people who are just going to tick along, right? There's going to be a real sorting out in this marketing context, obviously more broadly as well. It's that creativity coupled with ambition or the intent to then make a difference, right?
Because there are people that are using these tools now that are doing cognitive offloading. And then there are other people that are doing cognitive amplifying. Right. And the people that are doing the cognitive amplifying, I actually think that a formal education becomes less important. You want to be an autodidact. You want to be someone that's so curious and has such an appetite to create that you're going to try all sorts of things. Not someone that's come out of a formal education that has been taught how to think.
Maybe that's our hiring criteria for marketing teams.
I think it is. I think you need people with high agency, high ambition, like you said, and agency. People that are not someone who is going to just, try to follow the rules and do the next thing. And because AI can do that. Yeah, humans are perverse, odd things. And so we need to be more like that. The thing about the reason.
So work with crazy people.
Yes, our industry needs more freaks.
Yeah.
I really believe that. And one of the reasons that I think engineering has become the first thing to get eaten by AI is that the thing that made engineers great is their ability to understand complexity within a logical system. So engineering is it's zeros and ones. It's a logical system.
Yep.
But the ability to understand complexity became the important thing of great engineers, to see it all at once, right? AI does that, right? Now, something that is complicated but logical is one thing. Creativity is simple but illogical.
Yes.
Right? And AI is not very good at that, right? So there isn't, great creative thinking it's why...
Well, you actually said it was a system. You described it in system terms.
I did, but I think it's an internal system, and a lot of the stuff that comes out has been synthesized inside of this thing called a brain.
Yes.
And so it comes out simply, but it comes out illogically. It's not a logical thing. It's not. It's why there's been a million books on creative process. None of them you can pick up, learn, and be a good creative. It's not what makes you a good creative.
It's not a 10-step program.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's like there's a discipline to it, but it's not a discipline that you can measure, which is why, by the way, this obsession with measurement needs to be balanced with some emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, some things emerge out of, sort of an ingenuity, and you can't measure it until it's out there. Start with a hypothesis. Don't start with a dashboard.
Maybe we need CFOs working with the CMOs. Maybe that's where the science.
What the CFOs need to do is recognize that the CMOs have got a skill just as they do. It may not belong in a spreadsheet, but it's a skill, and it's taken years to hone.
Now that we've poked the bear, I might stop there. Thank you so much, Nick Law, for joining me.
Thank you.
Nick had a really great line about pumping sewerage through all of these digital pipes that we're using. Of course, a lot of us are worried about all of the AI slop as well. That's another great phrase. And all of this happily for me lands back in the field of storytelling, about creative ideas and having a big picture vision for where you want to go, how you can backfill that with all sorts of AI digital creative technologies to make it happen. You need, of course, implementers, great tech people, and you need amazing storytellers, and you need amazing creatives, people who can think about big picture ideas and synthesize stuff. And this, of course, for me, I was reflecting, that's why there's such a big appetite for the humanities in all aspects of business now, because we're recognizing the value of creativity and storytelling. So that's it for this episode of the CMO Show. Thanks once again for joining us. Make sure you do recommend and share this with your friends. Subscribe to us on all the usual links and socials, and tune in next time for our next episode. Until then, take care. The CMO Show is produced by Impact Institute in partnership with Adobe. Impact Institute is a professional services firm for purpose-led organisations. Our unique blend of impact consulting, brand storytelling and event services help our clients create meaningful change. This episode of the CMO Show was brought to you by your host, Mark Jones, that's me, and producers Kate Zadell and Kirsten Babels. Our audio engineers are Ed Chang and Daniel Marr. And a quick shout out to Adobe Experience Cloud, which gives digital businesses everything they need to design and deliver great customer experiences. Visit business.adobe.com to learn how Adobe can help transform your business.